My favorite memories of libraries are probably when my mother, who's an elementary school teacher, would take me after school to our public library in Hopewell, New Jersey, and we would just hang out. My mother's a huge reader, still is, and that was sort of the hangout spot after school for many afternoons when I was growing up. And I would just kind of roam the children's section, and they had a nice little cozy area so I could grab a few books and sit down comfortably and read some stories. So that's probably where it all started for me. Well, I think libraries, as they are for most people, just made me realize all the different stories that were out there, all the different worlds and universes and imaginations that I could explore. And at a young age, I realized that I really wanted to tell my own stories. I realized that was a fun thing, and I started writing stories and drawing pictures as a young kid because books, I think, were such a big part of my life. That's going way back there. Well, actually, I would have to say my favorite librarian is probably my mother, because she's now a librarian. So that's probably the best answer I could possibly give. My library, I live a couple blocks away from the central branch of the Brooklyn Public Library in New York, and I go there all the time. I go there for research. I go there to look at picture books, children's books, to check out novels. I read a lot of science fiction. I'm there all the time. They have a great sort of, it's a great cultural center, so I go and see art exhibits there and sometimes show my art there. I'm at the library as often as possible. Library budget cuts. Yeah, that's tough. I realize that a lot of cities are having to cut back, and how do you make a decision between cutting libraries and cutting police departments and all this stuff? I'm glad I'm not a mayor, because it must be tough, but anytime I hear about a library budget getting cut, it just breaks my heart. And so I often do what I can to help the Brooklyn Public Library system, because they're going through a lot of potential cuts and real cuts. And living in Brooklyn, we see all walks of life, from the super rich to the super poor. And I just think to myself, man, these poor families, the library is a lifesaver for them. So every time it gets cut, that's just more difficulty for them and more obstacles for them to overcome. I have a few friends who've had their books banned, and it's good for book sales. So on the one hand, it's not such a bad thing, I guess, from their point of view. But the idea of banning books, of course, is offensive to me. I don't really understand it. You don't have to read a book if you don't want to, and you can encourage other people not to read it if it's that important to you. But to just make it completely unavailable seems un-American, frankly. So, I don't know what to say about banned books. It seems like a waste of everybody's energy. I have a book coming out late August 2012 with Simon & Schuster called Creepy Carrots, about a rabbit who thinks he's being stalked by his favorite snack, and then realizes he is actually being stalked by his favorite snacks, which are carrots, of course, and has to figure out what to do about it, because it's kind of a weird problem. So the story reminded me, when I read the manuscript, which is written by Aaron Reynolds, it instantly reminded me of old sci-fi and horror movies from like the 40s and 50s and Twilight Zone episodes. So the artwork looks like an episode of the Twilight Zone, basically, and it was tons of fun to make. So,
if there were a vegetable that was going to stalk something or somebody, wouldn't it be a celery?
A celery stalk? Well, there's a lot of root vegetables out there that might have a few things to say to us, and celery stalks would be a good one. But carrots are trouble too. So trust me, you'll find out at Creepy Carrots.